Okay, good morning, everyone, and welcome to today's Economy and Infrastructure Committee meeting. Can I start by introducing the top table? On my left, I have Jack Welsh, Vice Convener. On my right, I have Jess Guild from Democratic Services. And I have Serge Marone, Strategic Lead, Economy Development and Planning. We're also joined by Dante Souza from the Development Plan team to present the first substantive item this morning. I'll now ask the clerk to confirm any apologies received and to advise of the members in attendance and online.
Thank you, Convener. We have apologies today from Councillor Carr with Councillor Massey substituting, Councillor Forbes with Bailey Ahern substituting, and Councillor Robertson with Bailey McLaren substituting. We've got 4 members online. I'll ask to confirm they're present. Bailey Brock.
Present.
Councillor Kogali.
Present.
Councillor Stewart.
Present.
And Councillor Watt.
Present.
Thank you. All other members are in the chambers, Convener.
Thank you so much. Can I, as always, ask everyone to use the chat box to attract my attention during the meeting? Thank you. Item 2 on the agenda, declarations of interest. Can I ask if there are any declarations of interest in respect of the business on the agenda today? Doesn't appear to be any. Thank you. And now item 3, the minutes of the Economy and Infrastructure Committee of the 28th of May 2025 for approval. Can we agree the minute of the meeting as stated? Agreed. Thank you. Okay, moving on to outstanding. Is your microphone on?
Onto the outstanding business statement, or with the minutes, because it's not covered under our outstanding business statement. Under item 7, we refer to the review of Perth Harbour operations, and point 2 there, it states the strategic lead, economy development and planning be requested to report any financial implications of the review of Perth Harbour operations to the Finance and Resource Committee. Could I just ask when that is likely to happen? I know there's quite a bit of work involved, but just when you're looking for that to come about. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Donaldson, for your question. So we will have a monitoring update at the next Financial Resources Committee in October. But I think in terms of a full update on the financial implications, that is likely to be at the following meeting of the Financial Resources Committee, not the one coming, but the one after. December. Yeah.
Okay, thank you. Item 4 on the agenda, outstanding business statement. Are there any questions on this statement? Don't appear to be any. Can I ask if the outstanding business statement can be noted and for the completed actions to be removed from the outstanding business statement? Thank you. Okay, moving on then to the first substantive item on the agenda today, which is item 5, advertisement control non-statutory planning guidance. And can I ask Dante Souza from the Development Plan team to introduce the report? Dante, thank you.
Thank you. Good morning, councillors. I'm here to introduce the proposed advertisement control planning guidance, which has been prepared as a non-statutory update to the existing guidance from the late 1980s. This updated guidance reflects the Council's ongoing responsibility to regulate the display of advertisements in the interests of amenity and public safety, as set out in the Town and Country Planning Scotland Act 1997 and the associated advertisement control regulations of 1984. While the original advice note has served us well, it has remained unchanged for decades. The proposed update ensures the guidance remains relevant, technically accurate, and aligned with current planning practices. The guidance outlines the Council's policy on signposting, provides detailed guidelines for applicants, and clarifies classes for deemed consent. It will assist applicants in preparing advertisement consent applications and support officers in assessing them, acting as a reference for decision-making. The revised guidance retains the structure of the original note, but introduces key updates, including incorporating new technical guidance on illuminated advertisements to reflect advances in digital display technology, redefining areas of special control to align with the settlement boundaries identified in our local development plans, addressing the growing use of large-scale window displays and their impact on visual amenity, and active frontages. Consultation was held on the draft guidance throughout July. We received 17 responses, with the majority finding the guidance clear and helpful. Based on this feedback, only minor amendments have been made, including links to pre-application and enforcement resources, clarification on A boards and their regulation under the roads legislation, clarification on the regulations approach to election signage, and strengthened reference to illuminated displays near traffic signals. This updated guidance will ensure consistency, clarity, and responsiveness in our approach to advertisement control. I welcome any questions and seek your approval to adopt the final version. Thank you.
Thank you, Dante. Are there any questions on the report? Bailey Ahern.
Thank you very much, and thank you for the report. My question's on the Class 3 temporary advertisements. And I notice in there that there's guidance about 28 days before sale, 14 days after sale. Two parts to the question is, what's the regulations with regards to inappropriate locating of signs, sometimes being put onto lampposts, sometimes being put onto street signs, and other structures that don't belong to the property that's under question? And how do you know when 28 days before a sale is? I can show you signs in the city centre that have been up for over a year. So what guidance, I mean, how do you determine when a sale is? Because a sale might not be there until they've got a decent offer or they go to a closing date.
Dante?
These are assessed on a case-by-case basis, so that we do depend on these being reported to us. So that is why we've included the links to the enforcement page. Our development management colleagues have advised that in these situations, well, this would need to be reported to us for us to be able to investigate further on a case-by-case basis.
Okay, I understand that possibly with relation to the inappropriate locating of the signs, but how can you put guidance in to say that a sign has to be up 28 days before a sale when, unless you're going to auction and have a specific date for sale, you're not going to know when that finishes. So that could apply to almost any sale. So you're saying it's then determined on whether somebody objects that it's been up for more than the 28 days. And then what do you do? Does it have to come down?
This is something I would have to look into further. The 28 days is what's stipulated in the 1984 regulations, so it's not something that I've included into the updated guidance, but it is something I can see if there's cases that we've addressed with the development management colleagues to see how they have approached those situations, and we can update the guidance accordingly.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Lane.
Thanks, convener. It's just to address advertising that's throughout the town for events that have happened 6 months prior. We have them in shop windows, and people see it as kind of ridiculous, especially when it's, you know, council alleys or council events that are advertised. They're still up in March or April, and the event happened at Christmas. And if you go up to the bus station, I think the most recent one that still was getting advertised for the theatre was March this year, but it was back to events that took place in October and November. So how do we monitor that so that it makes advertising worthwhile when people are coming to visit Perth that we're not putting advertising for events that have happened 6, 7, 8, 9 months ago?
Dante?
Thank you. Again, this is a case-by-case basis. They would need to be reported to us for us to be able to investigate further and address those advertisements that have been up.
And if I may, in the case of Alios and so on, I would expect our Alios to be able to manage that situation themselves. And I think appropriate communication needs to happen in order that that happens going forward.
And that's fair enough, but some of them were council events that councils had put up in the windows that are reported.
Same,
So
okay.
where we need to report ourselves.
Serge?
Yes, I think you're right, Councillor Lane. I think we need to be a bit more proactive in terms of looking what's out there, and I think it's through obviously the city centre management that we will effectively have a more proactive role in terms of identifying signs which are out of date and replace them by either more out of date or just taking them down.
Thanks.
Thank you. Councillor Harvey. Oh, I beg your pardon, Councillor Duff. I apologise.
Sorry, this one here. Okay. Just a question regarding section 54 on page 31. There's a section there that has a lot of reference to EC, European Region Development Fund, Social Fund, and various European regulations. Are these still applicable in the current situation? Okay.
I will need to look for further whether it's still applicable, but this was the most recent update to the 1984 regulations, added class 7. And so we've added that to the guidance here. We haven't received any feedback from our development management colleagues or during the consultation on this section, but we'll into it.
I think that's a valid question, Councillor Duff, and I think we do need to be sure that the appropriate legislation is either included or not, as is correct. So please ensure that that happens. Thanks. Councillor Harvey.
Thank you, Convener. Thank you for the excellent report. The section I want to ask about generally, which is a very good section, Appendix 3 on the lighted illuminated displays, it's something I know it's coming up and I was going to ask you about it until I saw this paper, so excellent thing. Both my questions are related to this, just the policing of this will be done by yourselves in your department, I assume, and the light in table 1, there's lighting environmental zones. I mean, it's pretty obvious from the description what they are, but in the cases where it's on the borderline, who makes the final decision on which environmental zone you're going to be in? Thanks.
Again, these are assessed on a case-by-case basis. Our development management colleagues, every single illuminated advertisement that is a digital display will require advertisement consent. And so as part of that application, they will assess and determine which zone that it will fall into. Likely E3 or E4, as E2 and below will fall into the areas of special control. That will be out with the settlement boundaries.
Okay, thanks.
Okay, thank you. I'm not seeing any further questions. So I'm now going to Councillor Lake.
Thanks, and thanks for the report, Danny. And this is more related to the report rather than on the report. As we move to more illuminated advertisements and companies want to cite these within Perth or within our towns and that, can we look to possibly enter into a contract with them where, you know, within the advertising that they're paid a large sum for, that we're advertising within Perth, say events are happening in Blairgowrie, Pitlochry and that as well, council events that are, you know, Highland Games and all that sort of thing. So it's getting a wide coverage and it's not just in the local area, because I don't think people read magazines and or booklets now to see what's going on. I was just wondering if it'd be possible to look at that moving forward to include council and tourism information on somebody else's advertising hoardings or illuminated advertising.
Serge?
Yes, definitely, Councillor, and we can look at it to explore how we can effectively use any opportunities to promote events out with, Perth City, making sure that the linkages are between the Perth City and the towns as well, and particularly in some rural events, which are very popular, and some people are also going through Perth in terms of transport to attend these events. So yes, that could be explored.
Okay, and Councillor Duff, another question.
Thanks. Just a point about the last question. I'm not sure if that might put us in a conflict of interest position. We're approving planning decisions, but getting the benefit from it. But I'll just leave that one hanging there at the moment. My question was about areas of special interest. I appreciate that. I think in the panel it talks about, sorry, what did I say it was? Sorry, I've lost the term. I flipped to my page there. But it does talk about, sorry, area of special advertisement control. I think the report talks about the countryside being an area of special advertisement control, but I wonder if we had any other areas where this is applied. Thank you.
There are special conditions as well for conservation areas, but those are covered separately in the guidance. For this section here, the areas of special advertisement control, that's something specifically addressed in the regulations. And the original guidance had used the settlement boundaries at the time. So in the update, we've just stipulated that since we are going through the LDP update process, that it would be those settlements identified there. But yes, to answer your question, it is similar in the case with conservation areas.
Oh, point of clarification, Councillor Lane.
Thanks, Convener. I'm not sure if that's the correct terminology, but it was just to come back on Councillor Duff's point about, I think it would be okay with planning if it was put in first, because when we pass housing applications through planning, we have 25% of that comes to us as social housing. So I think that's an even bigger, if you want to question the way it should be done, than if we were to use some advertising that's already been passed. So just want to point out that.
Okay, thank you very much. So if there are no further questions, I'd like to move the report, subject to taking on board the point that Councillor Duff made about the European legislation and making sure that these are still in force and appropriate. Sorry. Bailey McLaren, sorry, you have a late running question.
Yeah, thank you, Convener, and apologies for that. Just a question of clarity. Wind turbines, advertising on wind turbines. This may be something that's going to be something that will come in and be of concern to some communities. What do you see as appropriate advice on that?
In the case of advertisement on wind turbines, those would be within the areas of special advertisement control. So we would be imposing a strict control of the advertisements. It would need to go through an application for advertisement consent. So it would be then assessed on a case-by-case basis.
It's a very valid point. Thank you. Oh, an even later question for Councillor Lane.
I was just thinking, and I'd just pick an example. Been known sometimes to sit outside the ship, and there's
no advertising in this committee, Councillor Lane.
There are other hostelries available within Perth and Kinross, but there's a massive signage there that's been there for months and it's partially defaced now. How does that fit in with the regulations we've got here? And it's not on a window, it seems to be on a hoarding that seems to even encroach onto the pathway.
I would say that's addressed in Appendix 2, the standard conditions. Those are set out in the regulations, which states that all advertisements displayed and any land used for the display of advertisements shall be maintained in clean and tidy condition to the reasonable satisfaction of the planning authority. So it would be a case that would need to be reported for us to look into.
Okay, thanks.
And deep into stoppage time, we have another we have another question from Councillor Anderson. Thanks.
I just need Appendix 1, which have advertisements which don't require planning permission. You look at the one for bank food service, etc. There's a place in our ward, Ward 2, where a shopkeeper had permission to put up a sign on the outskirts of the village, and he was told by planning to remove it. Well, just up the road there's a temporary cafe, caravan put up and offering food and everything else, and nothing's been done about it from the planning authorities, from the signs he puts up the side to bring people into his business. But the shopkeeper in this village on the A94 was told to remove his signs, but he had permission from the landowner to put the sign up. And it seems to be one very similar to the sign shown like bank food, which is maybe collected for the village, but individual businesses, if it's next seeing the signs, they put up the signs. I don't know what the planning authority are playing at when they're asked to remove one and do damn all about another one, temporary one.
Sounds very like it's a treat, each case on its own merits. And but Dante, do you want to respond?
So I'm not familiar with that case. If you would like me to look further into it, then please do get in contact. It could be a case that it does come under one of the classes, but doesn't meet the specific criteria, the size, the measurements. So without knowing the full details of that case you mentioned, I wouldn't be able to respond properly. So I can look into it further if you would like.
Okay, thank you. I'm now going to move the report. Under the Town and Country Planning Scotland Act 1997, councils have the power to regulate advertisements in the interest of amenity and public safety. The updated guidance before us today sets out clear criteria for when advertisement consent is required in line with the appropriate regulations and includes illustrative examples to help applicants understand what is considered acceptable. This guidance is not merely a technical update. It is a vital tool to ensure that the visual character of our communities is protected while enabling responsible advertising that supports local businesses. Importantly, it strengthens our local policy on signposting, areas of special advertisement control and digital displays, ensuring signage is appropriate, well placed, and does not detract from the character of our natural or built environment. This is not about stifling creativity or commerce. It is about striking the right balance between economic vitality and the lived experience of our residents and visitors. The report recommends approval of the advertisement control planning guidance, subject to final amendments and as discussed, and to the format and layout of the document to improve clarity and accessibility. I'm happy to accept the recommendation within the report and move the paper for approval. And I'd like to ask Councillor Welsh to second the report.
I am happy to second the report. Thank you.
Thank you. Do members have any comments on the report? Councillor Massey.
Thank you, Convener. I welcome the updated advertising control planning guidance and thank the development plan team for the thorough and consultative approach taken in the preparation of this report. I think this guidance strikes a balance between supporting local businesses and promoting their services and protecting the visual amenity and character of our communities. It's very encouraging to see the inclusion of contemporary issues such as illuminated digital displays and the impact of window decals, which highlights the evolving nature of the advertising in our town centres. I also appreciate the response to the public feedback, with clear amendments made to strengthen the enforcement, clarify regulations around election signage, and improve pre-application support. These changes demonstrate a commitment to transparency and community engagement. This guidance will be a valuable tool in supporting the consistent decision making and ensuring that advertising contributes positively to Perth and Kinross without compromising its heritage or public safety. I am happy to support the adoption of this guidance.
Thank you, Councillor Massey and Councillor Duff.
Just a quick comment. Thanks, convener. Thanks very much for the very helpful report. I think we all know that this can be quite a contentious area in our wards. Not so much individual adverts. It tends to be the plethora of them that just arrive at a corner or a junction or whatever, and you know, we need to have these regulations to be able to enforce it. We possibly need to enforce it a bit more, I would think, as a council. But these are very helpful. I'm very happy to support the recommendations. Thank you.
Thank you very much. If there are no amendments, can we agree the recommendations as set out in the report?
Agreed.
Thank you. Moving on then to item 6 on the agenda, and can I ask Steve McDonald to come forward? This is council support to businesses. And as I say, Steve McDonald, Economic Development Manager for Business, Place and Investment, will present this report.
Thank you, convener, and good morning, councillors. The purpose of this report is to provide a series of actions and recommendations which enhance interactions between the council and businesses. Our economic performance is already strong. The 5-year survival rate for businesses is the 3rd highest of all local authority areas in Scotland, and we were recently rated by GrowFlag as the highest in the UK for the number of businesses likely to grow by 20% or more over the next year. By implementing the measures in this report, we can build on this and help to create an environment which further improves on the number of startups and growth businesses in our region. The report highlights and reflects the multiple interactions between the council and businesses, and the proposals cover a range of improvements, including marketing and promotion, developing intelligence and data, aligning skills and employability and business support programmes with local priorities, and the provision of employment land and commercial property. We are asking committee today to consider and comment on the contents of the report and approve the recommendations as set out in the proposals. Happy to take any questions. Thank you.
Thank you, Steve. I'm sure there may be questions on this, just waiting for any to come up in the chat. Bailey Ahern.
Thank you very much. The question of business supporting the businesses, there've been lots of different groups within Perth City Centre, and if I go back over the years, there was the George Street Traders Association, there was the Perth Traders Association. Another colleague in this chamber and I met with businesses to try and form another organisation to try and support businesses, and there's been other groups that have been run by either by the council or supported by the council in terms of business, and all those have fell by the wayside, either through inaction or lack of interest from the businesses. What guarantees, I suppose guarantees is not the right word, but what can we do to say that this is going to work and we're going to get the support of the businesses, or is this just another piece of or group or piece of work that's going to fall by the wayside again because we either lose the lack of interest from the businesses that we are trying to support within the city centre and the declining businesses within the city centre as well?
Thank you for the question. but we can't give any guarantees on that, obviously. But I've been in post for just over a year now, and we have been working with the Perth and Kinross Business Partnership, which is business led, and I think that's really important. But that's attempted to, where possible, to bring as many of these groups together, so we have a united front, and we can kind of do things collectively. So that covers the whole of Perth and Kinross. And if I understand your question correctly, there's a kind of focus on the city centre there as well. So we have, again, working with the business partnership, we set up a city centre forum, which the first meeting was maybe just before the summer holidays, and that was very well attended. So I would hope that those two forums remain active and collaborative. And I think the key thing for us is business led, and we identify actions, and we act on those as well. So I think, for example, that first meeting of the City Centre Forum, we did identify a series of actions, and we will update and be held to account of those at the next meeting. So I think to kind of retain that credibility, that's important. But it's difficult. We can't stop people setting up different groups. But the message from us is it makes everyone's life easier, and we'll achieve far more if we can work collaboratively. So we do have that in place through the Perth and Kinross Business Partnership and the City Centre Forum. So we will do everything we can to try and keep those relevant.
Thank you. Serge, you want to add something?
Yes, just to add as well, they're also the Perthshire Chamber of Commerce and the Federation of Small Businesses. So we're obviously engaging with them at kind of more collective level. But there are also opportunities, as Steve mentioned, to have a more focused discussions. And we have started some kind of roundtable discussions with a series of grouping of business which have a common interest, and that's a tool we would like to use. So the City Centre Forum is one way of doing that, but it could be that if there was a specific items or interest of a specific group, we can effectively be flexible and agile and obviously organize a roundtable discussion. Because you're right, we need to have this ongoing dialogue with businesses, because they are busy doing their business. So we need to find the right way to engage with them.
Just come back on that. So yeah, I agree with it, and I hope it works. I really do hope it works. George Street Traders, for example, fell by the wayside because nothing was ever done or achieved in terms of bringing that forward. So another colleague and I, we were doing the Perth City Centre forum with regards to shoplifting. But the business interest in that, they've got, as you say, they've got businesses to run, can't take the time off to come and do that. And even going around to visit them, that sort of tailed off as well. So I do hope, especially when they're around specific interests, it does achieve something, because that's the only way we're going to keep groups going. If the groups meet and nothing's ever achieved, what's happened in the past, only by getting clear things happening on the ground is that these groups going to work. Thank you.
Not entirely sure that was a question, but never mind. Thank you, Baillie Ahern. Councillor Donaldson.
Convener, thank you. And can I thank Steve and Serge and the teams for this report, the many positives therein, and I think the real promise for the future. Can I turn specifically to business networks and the Perth and Kinross Tourism Partnership in particular? Could I ask Steve, I think is best person on this, we have the overall tourism partnership for Perth and Kinross, but it's a bit of a patchwork quilt set up with local tourism partnerships. Is there more that we can do on that front? It obviously has to come from local hoteliers, leisure operators, hospitality providers, but can we do more on that front to actually create and establish and sustain tourism partnerships at a local level? Thanks.
Yeah, we can absolutely do that. I think, as you said, there's a mixed picture across the region in terms of there's local tourism partnerships. Some are still active, some have maybe fallen by the wayside. I think there's definitely a place for those local tourism partnerships, but I also think it's really important that they kind of feed into that overall destination marketing for Perthshire, which is our tourism brand, which is a really strong brand. So I think there is a place for them, but so long as it's coordinated and it all kind of feeds through that Perthshire brand and then into the kind of the Scotland-wide brand as well. So I think as long as it's all aligned and ties together, there's absolutely a place, and we will continue to support them.
Could I just quickly follow up and say thanks for that answer? I think what matters here is, yes, we have the overall approach to the brand for Perth and Kinross and the strategic view, but at a local level, tourism partnerships, would you agree, would be a benefit, in particular with the benefits that may yet arise from the tourism visitor levy, that funding there can be allocated to specific projects at a local level?
Yeah, we'll continue to support them, and I think when you look at visitor trends, and we obviously work very closely with Visit Scotland, there is a real kind of focus on, I think they call it living like a local, and that's a real trend in tourism. So I think where possible, we want to work with local tourism partnerships to promote what they have at that kind of very local level, and some of the products, and aligning with other sectors like food and drink as well. So absolutely.
Thank you. Councillor Smith.
Thank you very much, Convener, and thank you, Steve, for your report. My observation of this would be the overall encouragement of new businesses into our city centre. If I were coming into the city centre like I did today and walk along the street, and I was thinking about opening up a business, unfortunately, there's so many down and out buildings at the moment. There's broken windows, etc., etc. I would worry about the business sector looking and saying, well, what assurances can you give me when I
Sorry,
come?
Councillor Smith, are we getting to a question?
Yes, the question is, I'm looking to see if I was to build a business or have a business, how I would be supported in the security of being there and encouragement to come along and know that you will support me if there was any problems at all. That is really basically my question.
Thank you.
So I suppose there's two elements to that. I think we have a pretty robust kind of support package on offer for businesses coming to the city centre or the whole of Perth and Kinross through our Business Gateway programme or GrowBiz, and that's all referenced in the report. Around infrastructure, I appreciate some of the challenges that we have, but we're doing our best to try and address that principally through the Perth City Centre Design and Development Framework, which looks as that kind of whole placemaking approach, and that report will be coming to Council in a couple of weeks' time. So I think there's a couple of things for me there. Broadly speaking, it's around putting in place those proper business support measures. But in terms of infrastructure, I appreciate that there's things we have to do, but we can address that through that whole kind of placemaking, and that will be principally through the framework.
Thank you. Councillor Duff.
Thanks, Convener. And my question's on paragraph 513, which is about the establishment of a business-friendly cross-service officer group chaired by yourself, Stephen. When I speak to businesses, one of the areas of the council services that can quite often cause a lot of frustration for businesses trying to come into the area is planning. In terms of the process and the length of time it can sometimes take. And I just wondered, is there an intention to put planning within your cross-service officer group, and how would you see that helping to, promote or to persuade businesses to come to Perth and Kinross? Thank you.
If I may just interject there, I think you said it was Steve that would be chairing that, but it's actually Serge. I don't know who's most appropriate to answer your question.
Thank you for your question, Councillor Duff. Yes, I think the idea of this cross-service officer group is to have a network of informed individuals which are in constant contact with businesses. So they are the core face, if you want, of that work, and planning will be part of that cross-service group. The advantage as well of that group, it could be also mobilized in case of emergency. So that means that we can mobilize very quickly the people who have the information and intelligence on business information across the council. In terms of planning, we're obviously always trying to improve timescale and responses. We also encourage businesses to contact planning as early as possible, and we've got the pre-application service, which is obviously providing some pointers to businesses wanted to apply for planning. But as I said, we can still improve. There's always room for improvement.
Okay, thank you. Bailey McLaren.
Thank you, Convener. Thank you. This is quite an exciting paper to be reading, in my view. Just a little bit of a broader question. What has prompted you? I'm presuming that you're finding from your own experience as officers, this will also assist your efficiency, as well as assist businesses and give them a one-stop shop to open the door into these discussions. Thank you.
I mean,
Sure.
thank you for your question, Bill McLaren. It is effectively coming from, what businesses have told us. So by speaking to businesses, what they're telling us is they want to have a better integrated approach. We're obviously doing that already, but we want to improve and we want to be consistent in that approach. And we want also to do it at different levels, at individual business level, but also at locality level and also at sector level and, at across the whole council. And also making sure that we are listening to the small, medium and large businesses as well. So I think that report is showing that we want to improve and become more efficient in that relationship with businesses, and that's based on what they have told us. So and also what you have told us as well as councillors. Yeah.
Sorry, maybe just to add to that as well. So I think over the last few months the team have done a lot of work in terms of gathering data, intelligence, and putting that into a kind of system where we can start tracking key growth companies and we can get ahead of the game, so we can tailor and direct our support. So we're really keen that we do that, because our role is economic development. It's about increasing the number of jobs. So I think if we can target and tailor support to growth businesses, for example, that's really helpful. So we want to be really proactive in that.
Thank you. Brilliant. That's all I can say.
Thank you. Thanks for that comment as well. Councillor Lane.
Thanks, convener. I'm really pleased to see this report. The recommendations are spot on, and it's things that we need to drive forward. I think it will help our business growth immensely. And the thing I know I've got comments to make, obviously, at the comment, but so my question at the moment is 5.13. I think that's fantastic that we're going to have integrated across the council. We can have health and safety and everybody involved in it with roads and that. That's what we need to do. I was just wondering how often you expect that cross-service officer group to meet. Would be on a case-by-case basis. If there's something that is highlighted by the investment team that where a business is wanting to move into the area, and there are some not barriers but time frame issues of getting everybody lined up. So I don't know if that's what you mean by an emergency or something you need to move quickly, or will you meet every month or something to have a summary of where each of the businesses that want to come into Perth is? Because at the moment, business wants to come to Perth. We're running out of commercial ground because we're able to see it coming through property sub, and we have to look to expand it. So I was just wondering how often this cross service group would meet.
Sure.
Yeah, thank you for your question, Councillor Lane. I think maybe group is maybe we should have maybe put a network instead of group, because a group seems to, as you suggested, the group will meet on a at a certain time and so on over the year. But I think it's much more a permanent network which will be active all the time, and obviously the group will meet to discuss common issues at a regular at regular points. But it's almost like this network can be mobilized when it's needed. So if there is a very specific inquiry from a business and we need to mobilize 2 or 3 people from that network to come back and answer the question to the business, that's how the network will do. Emergency, I was talking about real emergencies as well, as we had with the incident in Scott Street, for instance. We had to mobilize very, very quickly people in the council who had the right information, to effectively provide that information for supporting, businesses on the ground. And so having a live network like this will help, that to happen quickly. So it is an agile network, and will respond to the needs of the businesses as they come to the council.
To follow up.
It was just on the last point. I think that we'd all like to say across that the work that was done by your teams with the emergency at Scottish to manage to help businesses that were obviously struggling through footfall or premises. It was appreciated by everybody, I think, in Perth and Kinross, but especially by members of this committee.
I would certainly echo that statement as well, obviously. Councillor Anderson.
See, thinking back on Perth, and not the old days, but not so recent, but Perth was a very important conference centre for Scotland. I just wonder how the position is now in Perth with conferences, with two of our more reasonable hotels not accepting visitors. It must be a drop, discouragement for conference companies of any scale to Perth, having lost how many bedrooms these two hotels are, but there will be quite a major loss to attract conferences to Perth, I'm sure.
Not sure I agree with you at all, but Steve.
Yeah, I think on the conference point, yeah, I mean, we do perform well, and that's a key part of our marketing, is to attract conferences to Perth and Kinross, in particular Perth City Centre. So, for example, we work very closely with the Rallios, and Perth Concert Hall is a fantastic resource, and it's a big income stream for Theatre and the Concert Hall is conferences coming to that. So it is a big focus for us, and we do prioritise that as part of our marketing. Thanks.
Thank you. We have a point of clarification, Councillor Lang.
It was just to point out really that I can see where Councillor Anderson's aiming with this, but since the Conservative UK government, asked for hotels to be able for asylum seekers, since then there's actually been 2 hotels in Perth that have closed down because of lack of football since then. So I don't see the use of these hotels as requested by the Conservative UK government at the time has actually impacted on the number of beds available in Perth and Kinross that were required.
Thank you, and I would agree that there is capacity within Perth City for accommodating conferences. There's no issue with that. You have a further point of clarification from Councillor Duff.
Sorry, Convener, I don't find Councillor Lang's comment to be entirely appropriate to the discussion. I think Councillor Anderson was at pains to not to talk about asylum seekers, as Councillor Lang has brought into the conversation there, and I don't think that comment was should be withdrawn. I don't think it was worthwhile. Thank you.
Okay, so I mean, I pick up on the unspoken text of the question, as did Councillor Lang. But listen, we are here today to talk about this motion and our response to supporting businesses, and let's focus or refocus on that if we can, please. Thank you. Councillor Massey.
Thank you, Convener. I'm on 521. I think you answered part of my question in response to Bailey McLaren's question, but can you expand a little more on the CRM, the Customer Relation Management System, and also how that has helped you to support businesses?
Can I maybe call on Kirsty Easton, who's our team leader who leads on this piece of work, to answer that question?
Kirsty.
Thank you. So our customer relationship management system we set up in January this year. So this allows us to record any interactions that we have with businesses. So if we go out to meet someone, we can record exactly what the conversation was, what their growth opportunities are, if they've got any pain points, any barriers, that's then recorded. So for example, if then another team member or if we have to do a briefing, we can then go back and look and check what the recording was. So that effectively helps cross-team working. So if other teams are working with that business, we can at least look at what the interaction's been. So we're not duplicating efforts, we're not hindering efforts either. So really what we're doing is just recording our conversations with that business and making sure that they get the best support possible.
Thank you. Okay, if there are no further questions, I'm now going to move the report. This report highlights and recommends a series of activities which enhance interactions between the council and businesses. In this regard, I would just wish to thank the Scrutiny and Performance Committee and its convener Colin Stewart for their independent analysis of this area of activity, which has helped shape the recommendations presented today. Our Perth and Kinross Economic Action Plan, aligned with national and regional strategies and approved through this committee, contains a series of activities which support businesses to grow, attract jobs and investment, tackle inequalities and support the transition to net zero. Ensuring we have the right business support measures in place is critical to achieving these objectives. We already have a strong business and economic performance in Perth and Kinross. The 5-year survival rate for businesses has been a long-term strength and currently the third highest in Scotland. And we were recently rated by Growth Flag UK as being the highest in the UK for the number of businesses likely to grow by 20% or more over the next year. That's a real positive. However, there is always more that we can do. The Council's activities cut across several services which provide information, guidance and support to businesses. The actions set out in this report, including marketing and promotion, developing intelligence and data, aligning skills and employability and business support programs with local priorities, and the provision of employment land and commercial property. These will all enhance our already strong business-friendly approach, creating a supportive and enabling environment. By creating an environment which improves business startup and growth performance, we will also help to sustain and create new job opportunities for our residents, helping to tackle inequalities. And I move the paper for your approval and would ask Councillor Welsh to second.
Thank you, Convener. Like yourself, I wholly recommend the strong position that this report presents around success within our current economic approach and economic development team. In the metrics that you talked about there in terms of business continuity rates, businesses that are currently thriving within Perth and Kinross. I think the clear message is here that this administration is very much business friendly and is looking to enable businesses to continue to invest in Perth and Kinross. While we can't do anything about some of the external challenges that businesses face, including national insurance contributions that have increased of late, it is extremely important that we do work closely both with the business that we have to assist them to expand and employ more people, but also to present to the outside business community a strong evidence for investment within our area. So I am happy to second this report. Thank you.
Thank you. Do members have any comments on the report? Councillor Massey. Oh, I beg your pardon, Bailey McLaren first.
Thank you, Convener. This approach to establish a business-friendly cross-service working officer group, I would term it as an entrepreneurial approach. We do have, as you've highlighted through our conversations in the paper, strong business activity throughout Perth and Kinross at many levels of business turnovers. So that is something that we all want to see continue and grow. But also this paper, to me, highlights a team of dedicated officers who are also working hard towards this goal of continued economic prosperity in Perth and Kinross. And the ripple effects this will bring throughout our communities is something that I see as extremely positive. And as I said already, I think it's brilliant.
Thank you very much. And now Councillor Massey, thanks.
Thank you, Convener. For me, it's encouraging to see a clear and commitment to having a business-friendly environment across Perth and Kinross, with practical steps to support growth, innovation and resilience. I welcome the establishment of a cross-service officer group and the development of a bespoke customer relationship management system, which will help streamline engagement and ensure that support is targeted and responsive. The proposal to strengthen links with the local employment partnership and review the business gateway contract are necessary, and these actions will help ensure that our support services are aligned with the needs of our communities and businesses. Finally, I'm especially pleased to see the Council's continued investment in commercial property and employment land through the CPIP, which will be vital in unlocking opportunities for start-ups and growing enterprise. Overall, this report reflects a proactive and collaborative vision for economic development in Perth and Kinross, and I am happy to support its recommendations.
Thank you very much. And Councillor Stewart.
Thanks, Convener. Thanks for your kind words. As you know, the Scrutiny and Performance Committee put a good bit of work into that, and that work is ongoing. We still have a further discussion to have about the vacant and eyesore properties, but happy just to echo, I think, and support the recommendations in the report, and echo what you and Vice Convener and Bailey McLaren and Councillor Massey said in your remarks. Thank you.
Thanks very much. Councillor Duff.
Thanks, Convener. Yeah, I welcome the report. Obviously, improving our economy has to be a key priority for this council. It's one of the key ways that we will lift ourselves up out of some of the issues that we have challenging us in Perth and Kinross. I think the recommendations that are before us will help both to support and grow our existing businesses and to persuade new businesses to come to Perth and Kinross. So it's a very much welcome report, and I'd like to thank officers for its compilation, and I support the recommendations it contains. Thank you.
Thank you. Can I just pause at this point? I'm not sure if we still have everybody online or not. Certainly missing from the screen, but I think we're all okay. Is everybody online? Can I get a thumbs up from somebody that you can still hear us?
Yeah, I can still hear you.
Okay, thank you. Okay, Councillor Lane.
Yeah, I'd like to echo everything anybody's already said. I think the recommendations, as I said earlier, are spot on what we have to achieve. I think two things that are my eyes drawn to is obviously 3.9, where we're recently rated the highest in the UK for the number of businesses likely to grow by 20%. And a lot of that is because members across the chamber have helped with infrastructure to make Perth more accessible. And I think we're seeing the dividends of the work with the funding that we've spent on infrastructure. But also important is 5.9.3, where it says that businesses, local businesses, 43% of them have or will shortly have a requirement to expand and relocate, and that's businesses that are on our business parks and that round. That's a very important point as well. So I'd like to thank the officers for all the work they've done, and I'd like to, I think it's a joined up cohesive approach that all of the businesses in Perth and Kinross will see some benefit of. Recently I read read the Courier report actually about who owns the shops within Perth city centre, and it was quite telling that there are very few. I think there's a couple by the HRA, and I think a lot of the problem is the privately owned shops that, as Councillor Anderson, I think it was, or Mr. Councillor Smith alluded to, would need to have, you know, some work done on them, but they're privately owned and out with the council remit. So that was an interesting read if anybody wants to read it. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. I'm not seeing any further comments, and there are no amendments. So can we agree the recommendations are set out in the report? I'm just going to offer an opportunity for a brief recess if anybody wants that. Yep. Okay, so just a 5-minute recess if that's okay just now. Thank you. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. Committee is now back in session. Okay, so we're moving on now to item 7, the final item on today's agenda, which is entitled Renewable and Low Carbon Energy Supplementary Guidance. For this, I'm joined at the top table by Robert Wills, Planning Officer, and can I ask Robert to now introduce the report, please?
Thank you, Convener, and good morning. Good morning. The report on the renewable and low carbon energy guidance recommends that the draft planning guidance be taken forward to public consultation. The 2019 Planning Scotland Act removed statutory guidance. However, we've brought the guidance before committee prior to consultation, given the wide interest in the topic. Also, following the 2019 Act, the guidance will not form part of the development plan. So it cannot introduce new policy, but it does provide advice on how policy will be interpreted for planning applications. And it also sets out information we expect applicants to provide when submitting proposals. The guidance does not address community benefit payments other than to explain that these are not a planning consideration. The guidance has been necessary due to significant changes in policy brought by National Planning Framework 4. This includes policy support for renewable energy to address the climate crisis. NPF4 also introduced some policies which have benefited from clarification in the draft guidance. We're aiming to provide a consistent approach to these policies. The draft guidance is also updated to reflect the increase in battery energy storage applications, and in particular there are fire safety requirements which have land use implications which we'd like to see clearly evidenced in proposals. By going to public consultation, this will allow for a full input from communities, developers and key agencies to ensure a final fully informed draft can be brought to committee for adoption. And happy to answer any questions.
Thank you, Robert, and I'll now wait to see what questions come up in the chat. Bear with me. Councillor Donaldson first.
Can I just thank Robert Wills for this paper? It's very thorough and very detailed. Indeed, I found it quite difficult going, and I think I need to go through it yet again. But there's one specific thing that here stands out to me, and that's on page 91, 92, and the pages round about there. And that's on the use of the Highland boundary fault line from Bedvorlich and Glenartney in the west to, I think, effectively Glen Isla in the east. Will that be used on an equal basis, and it will cover all of the line over that area from west to east?
Within the There we go. Within the local authority boundary as shown on the map there, then yes, it will be used with. This is for wind applications, and there are additional requirements where it's within, I think, off the top of my head, 5 kilometres of the or 2 kilometres of the boundary. So there's specific distances to look at. You know, to be able to, it's been a while since I looked at this, but it's, yeah, so certainly for wind applications in particular, it's looking at the effect, looking to the Highland boundary fault because of the prominence in the landscape.
Just to say thank you. I may come back to you on this because it's certainly in West Perthshire. It's wind power that, in fact, very much is kind of the hot topic right now. And I think I need also probably myself to take some maps of my own and just because it's a 5 and 2 kilometre kind of lines, just how to interpret that. But I think it's immensely important. And thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Stewart.
Thanks, convener. Thanks to officers for bringing this forward. It's something which probably wasn't anticipated at the time of LDP2, but due to the number of applications coming forward is at the moment is something that we really do need. Can I ask a question about timelines, please? I've got a few questions, but they're completely unrelated. So it will be of particular interest to a lot of my constituents, particularly between Balbeggie and Cooper Angus area, where there's a lot of applications. This report recommends going out to public consultation. Can I ask about the timelines for the consultation and when the finalised guidance would be brought back to committee?
Thank you. Yes. So we'd look to get the consultation started next week, and then so a 6-week consultation period and a bit of time, so which would bring us to sort of the 3rd week in October, and then time to incorporate feedback into a finalised guidance. And then with committee timelines, it would probably tip into next year, the beginning of next year, but certainly as soon as we can.
Okay, thanks very much.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Duff.
Thanks, convener. My question's in relation to paragraph 3.1.10 on page 75, and it talks about a statement of net economic impact. It goes on then to talk about some of the positive things around about it, things like employment, training, business, and utilising local supply chains and such like. I wondered whether that net economic impact assessment also considered maybe some of the negative aspects of it, things like maybe house prices or impact on tourism and such like, when it's taking that into account. Thank you.
Yeah, thanks for the question. It is a net economic benefit assessment, so if there are obvious detriments, then I think we'd expect to be seeing that. The only additional thing I would add is that there does need to be some proportionality in what we're asking from developers. So some of the impacts on tourism might be quite a lot to ask unless it's quite clear what the impacts of those might be. For example, if it's on core paths or visual amenity. But yes, no, certainly happy to consider further that and during the consultation period.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Harvey.
Thank you, convener, and thank you, Robert, for this report. It's quite interesting. I want to focus in on the kind of fire protection issues under the energy storage, which is page 33 of your recommendation. That's an excellent way of assessing this. Just for my information, some of these are probably quite technically detailed. Are you quite comfortable with the in-house kind of resources you have to kind of assess these properly, or would you intend to take them out to a third party if required and when required?
with the, with any applications, the certainly development management officers will can consult more widely. Currently, as far as a lot of the so the fire safety issues are currently the building standards team are largely dealing with those, so we do have the expertise there, and where necessary, if the idea would be that the fire service is consulted by the applicant to thrash those out and then reflect that in the application. But if absolutely necessary, then we could go to the fire service to double check that.
Can we follow up? Is that okay?
Yep.
Yeah, just because I mean, as you probably know, there's always a lot of misinformation about fire and how you suppress it and that type of thing. So it's important. And HSE, I notice, very rarely comments on things. So it's important that you have a good you guys have a good understanding, and that sounds like you do. So thank you.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Smith.
Sorry, Convener, got me out there. My question a wee bit is with Councillor Colin Stewart as well, as the timeline. In my ward, there is extreme discomfort about the whole thing. I'd like to know how and when this will come to the public consultation. In that way, I mean that in 3.17, there's introduction, more supportive approach to renewable energy. Well, it's not what I'm feeling with the general public at all. In fact, they're alarmed about the whole thing. So I'd like to know when and where possible. Thank you.
I think that has, maybe the where hasn't been answered, but the when already has. But if you want to just repeat, Robert, thank you.
So we will look to go to public consultation from next week. And at the moment, we're just proposing an online engagement for that. Yes, through the standard consultation hub process.
I come back slightly. A lot of my constituents live up in the back of beyond where this is going to affect. They don't get very good internet. How are they going to be told of this, please?
We can put out further publicity around that.
All right, it's not we can, we must.
Thank you for the question. I'll cover that in my comments at the end. Okay, sorry, Bailey McLaren.
Thank you, Convener. As expected, my question relates a little bit to the page 113, prime agricultural land and good quality soils. Within Perth and Kinross, we have the ability to produce many aspects of the food that we see on the supermarket shelves. That is also done on land that is graded to a 3.2, and in some cases it's a 3.3. But I do understand here that you're referring to the James Hutton Macaulay gradings. Is this something that we can take into account, that within Perthshire we have this unique aspect of food production, and this is probably more about battery storage and solar, not the wind aspect?
So the certainly obviously down to 3.1 is prime agricultural land, and then 3.2 land is covered under the LDP policy. So it requires specific consideration of that. As far as actually looking at the use of land and whether that's being taken out, it's not something that's currently in policy, whether it's an MPF4 or an LDP2.
Thank you, Convener. It's just that on a wider aspect, we have the Good Food Nation bill, and food security is of a wider concern. So I would just like to be highlighting that in this conversation.
Thank you. Okay, so now we have, sorry, Serge.
Just to go back to the previous report in terms of engagements with businesses and people have an interest in these developments. I think it's important as part of the consultation is maybe to engage with some interested parties in terms of why this primary agricultural land is effectively sold to developers. What is the reason behind it, and the competition, as you said, about food production and so on. So I think there's maybe some targeted, discussions to have with interested parties, because it's not the council obviously who is selling that land. It's effectively the people who own the land or who have a responsibility on that land. So we need to engage with them to understand why effectively that land is not used for food production but potentially for renewables.
Thank you. And if I can assist you with that, happy to.
Thank you, Bailey McLaren. Okay, so we're now on to second questions, and Councillor Stewart.
Thanks. I think I've got a couple of questions, but I just wanted to follow up quickly on Councillor Duff's last question and the answer to that. I understand the point about net economic impact, but I think we've previously been told that it's difficult to calculate negative economic impact, so the effect of not doing something or taking something away. So it's probably more for Serge than Robert. For example, if you could we just be reassured that in terms of net economic impact, for example, if you're putting an installation in, you could and calculating the positive economic impact of that, you could also calculate the negative economic impact of not, for example, doing food production on prime agricultural land over the lifetime of an installation, and that from the positive economic impact.
Serge.
Yes, thank you for your question, Councillor Stewart. I think we will expect, I suppose, developers, that's the guidance is saying this is the information we need from you to justify your development. So when the economic impact assessment will be carried out by the developers, we will expect them to follow a specific methodology in terms of how this has been calculated, and that will include displacement, potentially a duplication of so the loss of anything which has been. So we will expect the economic impact to cover elements that you just described, which is much more the negative element, and compare that with the positive element to come up with effectively the conclusion, which is the net economic impact assessment of that methodology. But the onus will be on the developers to demonstrate that net economic impact.
Thanks.
Okay, thank you. A second question from Councillor Duff.
Thanks, Convener. My question's about page 82 of the pack, which is in the guidance under 2.1 on wind. And there are a number of bullet points there that talks about different type of wind power proposals, and it has 3 classifications for turbines. So 15 to 30 metres being small, 30 to 50 being medium, and above 50 being large. However, obviously the kind of turbines that are now being proposed in a number of areas are 200 and 250 metres in height to the tip. And I would just wondered if there would be scope for putting in a very large turbine category here to show the difference, because I think above 50 and up to 250 are quite substantially different in size, and who knows where they'll end up. We might even be bigger ones to come, in fairness. But I don't know, are these our classifications, our government classifications, and could we add very large turbines just to that, just to make it more apparent their size? Thank you.
Yes, thanks for the question. So they're our classifications, but the reason that they're in there is because there are different categories, for example, in near national parks, and when you're talking about EIA and that kind of thing. So that's kind of why they need to put in some categories. As far as over how big the wind turbines go. Going above 50, anything sort of above that height is substantially visible in the landscape. So that for those turbines, we're asking for kind of the maximum amount of information. So looking for EIAs and as much information as we can. So I absolutely recognise the point that they are becoming absolutely huge. But we're by putting them in that category, we're already asking for basically as much information as we can ask for.
And obviously in that category, they would require planning permission and therefore the scrutiny that would go with that. Yeah. Okay. Bailey McLaren.
Thank you, Convener. So my question is really, we do economic environment assessments, we're seeing tourism activity. What we've not spoken about is the human impact here. And all of us will be getting currently quite a lot of communication from many communities about their deep concern about proposals that are coming forward. So I'm just wondering, is there any way that we can start to maybe put an eye on the human impact that is going to be caused here, potentially within this consultation document?
Could I ask for a bit more clarification?
It's in and around, you know, the landscapes in which these communities are living in are going to be altered completely, possibly. And therefore, what I'm picking up from the communication I'm receiving is a deep concern about that. People have set up businesses in that area, have chosen to live there for the amenities that sit within it. And that change is going to be out with their control, and that is impacting people. There's a deep concern out in our residents. So I'm just wondering, and I know what I'm asking here or questioning is something that's it's not captured. And I sometimes even in planning sit and think, gosh, we should have a human impact assessment because the public have a voice. Sorry, Councillor Leader, you're quite right. Health and well-being. Sorry, thank you.
Yes, thank you. That does clarify. Yeah, so certainly the residential amenity impact, so visual amenity, noise, and the landscape amenity, the landscape value is covered significantly within policy. There is again, I was going to refer to the community wealth building policy, but that is more about positives rather than impacts on directly on health and well-being. It's not something that's really captured in policy other than under standard planning terms. So there is health as in air quality and the visual amenity and pollution and all of the noise. All those things are covered in landscape. So potentially they're all covered, but not necessarily directly how the communities feel about how it's impacting them. And again, that's perhaps something that could be addressed through and perhaps because of the policy environment that we're in, it might be something come through LDP3 rather than at this stage.
That was one of the points I was going to make. Actually, LDP3 is our chance to shape that kind of discussion at the moment, and we benefit from having Councillor Massey on the team today. That kind of issue under current planning legislation would be covered under residential amenity. I would imagine. Yeah. Okay. No, thank you. Okay, Councillor Smith, you have a second question.
Thank you very much, Convener. I need to go back to the communication subject here. This is a massive subject, it's going to worry, excuse me, worry an enormous amount of people. And I'm just worried about the lack of knowledge that some people will have of your communication. I think you need to have even advertising, we need to even have television, etc. Because you can imagine if someone was going to put a huge wind farm, solar farm up in the hills, it means nothing to somebody in the middle of Perth. So I think there've got to be more visual views of what it's going to look like. I can imagine if someone put one in the North Inch, then you would have no problem with your communication. But now that you've got a whole pile of applications along our area, it's affecting an awful lot of people. And it's only when I think when these people go out and about, we'll see the impact, that the danger, that the damage is doing to our whole area, etc. So I think communication has got to be very important. And I'd like to make sure that you get that across. Thank you very much.
If I can just intervene and say what I was going to say when I came to comments at the end of all the questions, I do take on board completely your comment about people who do not, for either for technological or because they just don't, they don't do online, that we need to be able to reach these people for their views. And this is a wider issue across all consultations, frankly, that we have, and that is a challenge. We have the online consultation hub. That's great if you're online, but we need, in general, to improve the means of contacting people who are the most difficult to contact, and I agree that we need to look at that for this consultation as well as any others. So, the very least I would be expecting was media coverage through the local newspapers with a postal address that people would be able to write to should they choose to do so. And so I would ask that at the very least is included within this consultation. And as I say, I would, and obviously we have the other consultations continually happening, and that's just a wider issue that I would just comment on at this point in time as well. Okay. Did you want to add anything at all, Robert?
No, but no, certainly take on board the comments about consultation. We will make sure we work with the communications team to make them more public.
Yeah, for that. Thank you.
Okay. Third question, Councillor Stewart.
Thanks, convener. Sorry, I just couldn't get it off mute there. Just recognising what Mr. Wills said in his introduction, and there is a bit of detail in the report around this. I just wondered, for clarity, if we could maybe get a wee bit more about the relationship between this ultimate guidance, once it's been consulted upon and come back, and planning decisions, because it won't be statutory, but it will be more of a question of how the existing policy is interpreted. So, for example, if there's a section, there are sections in there which talk about how landowners and developers do the site selection process. If they haven't done that, does that then become a material consideration during the planning application and permission process?
Thank you, Councillor Stewart. Yes, it would have material weight, but not as part of the development plan. So if the developer had another way to demonstrate that they'd met the policy, that sort of still satisfy the policy, and then that would be acceptable. But we're setting out what we're expecting from developers, and just certainly from the past experience of the by providing some certainty that developers do tend to follow that, just to make it easier to get their applications in.
Okay, thanks.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Watt.
Thank you, thank you, convener. Just a question on the transmission of the power created by these developments. Is the planning taken into consideration that how close they are to existing transmission lines, or are we going to the bigger bag of worms is more transmission lines crisscrossing the countryside?
Thank you. Yes, there's a couple of aspects to that. A lot of the transmission lines do not come through us, through the council, and we do not take them into consideration because often they're not in place. There is also a direction in NPF4 that we do not take grid connection into account. And on the other side, however, there is a bit more of an increase in developers bringing forward the sort of the local grid infrastructure within the planning applications. And in that case, then yes, we do certainly take into account the impacts of those.
Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Welsh.
Thank you, convener. A bit of a preamble here, but there is a question, so bear with me.
I will briefly.
Energy policy is reserved to the UK government. On the 10th of July, the UK government rejected recommendations for a fairer zonal pricing system. Zonal pricing would have provided significant reductions in electricity bills for domestic and business customers in Scotland and the north of England. Many Scottish communities suffer the adverse impacts of living in close proximity to electricity infrastructure, currently with little material benefit or local societal benefits other than through limited community benefit provision. When the UK government rejected zonal pricing, the UK Minister explicitly stated that additional battery storage would be encouraged. My question is, are we likely to see in Perthshire additional applications for battery storage as a result of that UK government decision? Thank you.
I'm not really qualified to anticipate that, but I would say that obviously the planning system is devolved, and we will follow the planning system on that. Certainly the government, the UK government, and in consultation with the Scottish government, is looking at the community benefit payments that are currently not coming out of battery storage. So that is something that might help with that.
So just to follow up, so currently there's no community benefits come from either battery storage or from solar infrastructure, but that is something that you are understanding is being looked at to at least provide some material benefits to those communities that are immediately impacted by this infrastructure.
Yeah, there's an understanding that is an issue and it's being looked at, but obviously just with the caveat that that's not a planning matter, but yes.
Okay, thank you. And I think the final question is from Councillor Stewart.
Thanks again, convener. It is a question on community benefit. I understand that community benefit isn't part of the isn't a planning consideration, at least not for the authority or the members of the committee when they're deciding a planning application, but it will be a consideration when developers are consulting with doing their public consultations with communities. Certainly the best offer I think we've had is £500 per megawatt per annum of installed capacity, although the guidance actually says 5,000, and so for a 49.9 megawatt, that's the difference between £25,000 per annum and £250,000 per annum, which would be transformative in a lot of communities. Now, I understand the point you were making about it being a recognised issue and work ongoing on that. But what I was specifically asking about during the workshop that we had back in June, I think it was, the question was not whether a community benefit stream was a planning consideration for the determination of an application, but whether or what mechanism the council would use to secure the community benefit income stream, and whether that could be attached to a planning permission in the same way as, for example, section 75 is for educational benefits, or the Perth Transport Futures, because communities may change their view on an application if they're offered £250,000 per annum versus £25,000 per annum, and not object where they otherwise might do. So it's a material consideration for them, but unless we can actually secure that community benefits income stream, then a community could find itself left high and dry with an installation which they didn't really want and no income stream.
I think Serge or
That's okay.
Alan.
Thanks, Councillor Stewart. Yeah, it is important that the community benefit packages are separate from planning to avoid the both the actual and perception of bias when effectively buying planning permission, even if it's just to avoid having a genuine objection submitted. So that is separate, but there are, again, completely separate mechanisms that other councils have used to help communities secure that. There was a briefing. I'm not sure all councillors received it, but it was put out by Communications following the members' briefing, setting out sort of what some of the other councils are doing, and perhaps that is something that the council could look at separately to the planning system.
Yeah, so I couldn't find it, but I did get it. So I've read that section, and I think the point is that it lays out what other councils are doing. I think it's Highland and South Lanarkshire or something like that. But what I was really looking for, in connection with bringing in a policy on renewables, members of our communities will be particularly interested to know how this council plans to secure that income stream. So would it be possible to, I mean, maybe we need to take this discussion offline and work out how that will come back, but I think what I'd like is an assurance that we will implement a mechanism for securing the community benefits.
Serge?
I think we need to remember as well that it's the onus is on the developers. It's a voluntary contribution. They are developing, and this is the way of working with the community as well. So I think it's working with the developers to make sure that they are in some way up to the standards of the industry, and there's quite a lot of industry groups working together to set some standards in relation to community benefits. It has happened in the wind industry, but it's also happening in the transmission industry. And you would have seen that some funds have been launched in terms of community benefits from developers. So I think for us, it's obviously engaging with that industry to make sure that we understand what the industry is setting as a standards, across Scotland, even across the UK. But there's maybe more work to be done with the industry
and from a council point of view to maximise that potential source of income for our communities in Perth and Kinross. But that's obviously in parallel to planning. It's not part of planning, so it's maybe different ways to do that, than to have a specific conditions or whatever. I don't think it's potentially possible to do that, but I think we have to learn from other local authorities on that. But it's the engagement with industry definitively, and we know that some industries are better than others in terms of setting the targets and the standards, and obviously respecting them, in terms of that requirement, and some are maybe less. It depends also how it is structured, and the industry is structured, and how the individual developer is engaging with the overall industry body as such. But there's definitely an area we will look at.
Okay, thanks. I think it will be an area which comes up as an issue of concern, or maybe not concern, but an issue which the public will react to during that consultation phase. But thanks for the answer.
Thank you for the question. And at the moment, the final question is Baillie Brock.
Thank you, convener. The question I'm actually looking at here is during the consultation period, and I just wondered, I don't see National Park on that. Is there a reason why National Park wouldn't appear on part of the consultation period, given that we've got 2 national parks within our area?
Are you referring to the people that have already been consulted? The stakeholders?
Yeah, on the consultation one, yeah.
Yeah, so we will certainly contact them as part of the consultation process. In developing the guidance, the specific interests around battery storage, which we worked with other authorities that were also dealing with the same issue at the time, which is why we had additional engagement with them.
But they will be getting consulted on, I take it, yeah?
Absolutely, yeah.
Right, thank you.
Okay, thank you. Thank you for the questions, and thank you for the answers. There being no further questions, I'm now going to move the paper. National Planning Framework 4 introduced new policies which cover renewable energy. Many policy criteria remain the same as in the adopted local development plan, but some NPF 4 policies have changed the approach to assessing these applications. In particular, a greater weight is afforded to the nature of these proposals in mitigating climate change. Since the introduction of NPF 4, we have seen an increase in the number of proposals for wind, solar and battery storage. While the guidance before you today does not and cannot change national policy, it can ensure that the Council is provided with full and consistent information to inform its decision making. The paper put forward for approval today is a consultation draft only. The draft will be a useful starting point for applicants on policy interpretation and information requirements. However, the consultation will allow full input from stakeholders and communities and result in robust guidance for current policy environment. The draft will be revised following the consultation and brought forward to this committee for adoption, and taking on board Councillor Smith's ask, with which I agree, we will ensure that there is as much public awareness of this consultation as possible. The report recommends approval of the draft renewable and low carbon energy supplementary guidance for the purpose of proceeding to public consultation, and I am happy to accept the recommendation within the report and move this paper for approval. And I'll ask again for Councillor Welsh to second the motion. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Convener. I do welcome the consultation draft document as a step towards capturing some of the challenges and ideas and concerns that some of this infrastructure will provide to communities. And I think it is important that the consultation, as the convener said, is done in such a way that we as councillors can really sort of capture and voice both the opportunities for this infrastructure, which can be significant, but also the concerns around their placement and impact on the natural environment, which many people absolutely value in Perthshire as a key reason for businesses, specifically in the tourism industry, and residents looking to live, in this beautiful part of the UK. So I'm happy to second the report, but as I say, I want to ensure that consultation process is done in an effective and meaningful way. Thank you.
Thank you. I'm now going to ask if members have any comments on the report, and I see that Councillor Stewart does.
Yeah. Thanks, Convener. Just to reiterate, thanks to officers for bringing this forward. I had a few points which I wanted to see in a policy on renewables and storage, which were about site selection, the use of prime agricultural land, and how making sure that cumulative impact is taken into consideration. And I see all of those points that are covered in the draft guidance. I think it's great that we're now going out to public consultation on this, because it means that the public, members of our communities who will be affected by any installations or developments will actually have a chance to influence the policy rather than just respond to that governs such installations, rather than just responding to individual planning applications. Hopefully the public really do engage with this consultation process, and I look forward to the finalised guidance coming back in due course. Thank you.
Thank you, and Councillor Massey.
Thank you, Convener. As Convener of Planning and Placemaking, I'm pleased to support this guidance, which represents a significant step forward in aligning our planning framework with the ambitions of National Planning Framework 4 and our local development priorities. The guidance provides clarity for applicants, communities and decision makers, ensuring that the proposals for renewable energy are assessed transparently with regard to the environment, landscape and community impacts. This paper rightly places significant weight on Scotland's statutory climate targets, including the goal to reach net zero greenhouse gas emissions by 2045. It sets clear expectations for developers to demonstrate how proposals contribute to renewable energy generation and emission reduction, while protecting biodiversity, prime agricultural land and carbon-rich soils. The inclusion of detailed technical standards, such as those for battery storage safety and hydropower design, reflects our commitment to responsible innovation and public safety. The guidance supports our climate goals by encouraging developments that contribute meaningfully to greenhouse gas emissions, greenhouse gas reduction, and energy generation targets. This is a well-considered and forward-looking document, and I thank the officers and consultees who contributed to its development. I am confident it will serve as a valuable tool in shaping a sustainable and resilient future for Perth and Kinross. I would also note that 2 of the papers on today's agenda relate directly to planning matters. It may be appropriate for the Planning and Placemaking Committee to have sight of such papers in future to help inform members and support a more integrated understanding of the planning process. I would suggest that officers explore opportunities for closer collaboration between the Economy and Infrastructure Committee and the Planning and Placemaking Committee, such as joint briefings on emerging guidance, shared workshops on policy interpretation, or cross-committee updates on strategic planning issues. This would help ensure alignment across committee and strengthen our collective approach to placemaking and sustainable development. happy to approve the draft guidance for public consultation. Thank you.
I think Councillor Lang is wanting to come in. Just before he does, if I can I just say thank you for your contributions today. Really appreciated. I wouldn't normally single out a member because there have been a lot of valued contributions from a number of members of this committee and their substitutes today. All I would say is the transfer window is still open, and we can get you in to the team before deadline day if that suits, and that might or might not find an agreement with the council leader.
Wasn't that? It was the comment from Councillor Massey went on so long my computer died or gave up. No, thanks for letting me come in. I think what he said there makes perfect sense, and it falls on the previous paper when we're talking about having cross-party business working, and which we were trying to get the council to do to look and make a more cohesive organisation. And that is just following on from that. Makes perfect sense that two important parts that drive economic development, our planning, are more integrated in the committees as well. So I think it's a really good idea.
And obviously, if I can just add, in terms of where we're at now in the formulation of Local Development Plan 3, and it's essential that the two committees and the two of us work closely hand in hand to ensure there is that joined up approach. So thanks again. If there are no more comments and no amendments, can we agree the recommendations as set out in the report? Okay, thank you. As that brings us to the end of the business on the agenda, can I thank everyone for your attendance today and all your contributions. We will see you again on the 19th of November. In the meantime, I formally close this meeting. Thank you.